going to make just a very simple slab. I've laid a few weeds that we find outside. I have flattened it. I pull my slabs to begin with. You can use a rolling pin. Just make sure you wash it really good before you use it for pie crust. And I'm simply going to roll this over to get my impression. Carefully lift off what I have on here, and I don't even have to lift it. If I leave a few of these bits on here, it's not going to hurt a thing. They will burn out when they're fired. This would make a beautiful trivet. Very, very nice to put some little balls on the bottom for little feet. They would be scored with a little bit of slip, joined together nice and tight. Put it to a side to let it dry, and you have a perfect little trivet to put hot pans on your table with. One of the things I like to do, though, is to make actual forms. Here is a slab that has been just very loosely joined, nice and tight on the bottom, though, and then used as a candle. I'm going to show you today how to use a natural gourd or a natural acorn squash, and we're going to make a bowl out of it. I love squash soup. What better way to make squash soup or serve it than in a squash bowl? This has not been fired yet, so it's fairly fragile. In order to keep your clay from sticking to the gourd, I stick it in an old stocking. Cut the leg off of a pair of pantyhose, stick it on nice and tight, pull it down in, and then I'm going to lay this in another form, just simply so I can manipulate my clay on it. I take another slab and I start forming that slab over my gourd, gently pressing, 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 pressing to get the little grooves that go in and out on the gourd. You can leave it flared if you like. I kind of like that. You can get more soup in your bowl that way. I'm going to put a foot on next. This foot is made using a small coil. Coils are made with the flat part of your hand. The flatness, the roundness comes not from my hand, but from the surface I'm working on. I don't need a very fat coil, but I need a little bit, about the size of a pencil. I have already scored this, so I'm going to throw a little slip. Slip is simply clay that has been, that's kind of like frosting. It's clay that has had some water mixed to it, nice and thin. Acts as mortar. I would score this. Score means just to make it rough. You can use tools from home. You can use a comb. I have a little pastry roller that I use that has little teeth on it. I just rough it up. I lay it on where I have my slip. I throw a little more slip on here. I love working with my fingers. It is just very therapeutic. Wipe it up with a little bit of a sponge. This is a natural sea sponge. It's called an elephant's ear because it's shaped like an elephant's ear. So much of what we do comes from nature. I've actually used clay that comes from the Kankakee River. It's very laborsome because you've got to get all the little bits of squirrel ears and dead bugs and all those other things out of it. But it works. Native Americans used it. Now, I'm going to take this off. I simply turn it upside down. And the clay has been allowed to dry to the point of leather hard. It's kind of like a saddle. That it's malleable, it still bends a tiny bit, but not very much. I will finish up my edges. A little bit of moisture to smooth them out. kind of finishing touch in here. When it's completely finished, I would probably glaze the inside a nice bright orange, the outside a nice dark rich green, so that it will kind of accent that soup bit to it. I would smooth out the inside, and we're done. Come to the Art Barn, learn how to get that mud in your veins. It's an awesome experience.